What is up, heroes? This is Midnight Zero, and welcome to another Pokemon Showdown battle. In this battle, I am going up against a guy by the name of Anti-Swag, and just looking at his team, I'm not too familiar with his team from the competitive side. I noticed that Wormadam, or Wormadam, I don't know how you say it, can be like a staller, like a heavy defense, but I don't think a good lead. I don't think Tangela would be a good lead either. I think Sandshrew potentially for rocks, so I'm not really sure what to expect, so I end up throwing out Primeape, which is going to be really strong, and I know it has Choice Scarf, so I can take it out as soon as possible. So he leads off with Murkrow, and I'm a little confused, I don't know why, but I have Ice Punch, but I'm not sure I want to take the Brave Bird if possible, but I know I have Speed, so I'm going to go with Stone Edge to try and really KO this thing, but I notice it goes first, so I realize it has the Prankster ability, and we're about to have a Prankster war. So he goes for Sucker Punch. I know he's like a sub-punch type, and I'm just going to Encore him into Sucker Punch because I'm not going to be doing any attacking for a while. And he's going to be like, alright, well, this is kind of ridiculous. So he's going to take his Murkrow back and send out Sandshrew, and I'm like, okay, well, I don't know that much about Sandshrew. So I set up a sub because I have the free turn, and from there I can do my little swagger trolling, increase his attack and get him confused. He uses Earthquake, though, and that takes out my sub, but then again, as long as he's confused, I can keep using subs until he becomes confused. On the other hand, now I send in my AC, my Rotom Fan, because it'll be immune to the Earthquake, and I can set up for Hidden Power Grass, while he sends in Wormadam Trash, which is just going to completely wall it. So I send out Flora, my Roselia, to help set up stuff, and so Wormadam actually has Stealth Rock, so he sets up his rocks, but I'm going to set up Toxic Spikes. And he goes for Iron Head, but it doesn't do that much. So I'm just going to see if I can get Toxic Spikes up. And he keeps going for Iron Head. I have Synthesis, so it's not that big of a deal. So I send out my Tangela, the Green Goblin. And he's physically defensive, so I'm not too worried. I set up Leech Seed, hopefully to get some passive damage on this guy and force him to eventually switch. Because he's going to be really annoying and tough to defeat, because I don't have any Fire-type moves on my team. So he Toxic Stalls me. And I realize, oh boy, this is going to be a long battle if he ends up Toxic Stalling. So this could be pretty bad. But I have a Miltank with Heal Bell, so I'm not too worried about status right now. So here comes our favorite Miltank, Whitney. And it takes the Iron Head like a champ. It's a defensive, bulky boss. And so, what I'm thinking is, first of all, why did he send in Sandshrew? And I took the time to set up my rocks. And I figure, I don't know exactly what's going to go on. Maybe I'll switch into Tangela or Roselia, grass types. But I end up taking out Green Goblin because I knew Sandshrew was going to use Earthquake. But it turns out Sandshrew knows Rapid Spin. That really threw me for a loop and got rid of all of my entry hazards, which was pretty frustrating. So, now that I figured he was going to switch, I set up Leech Seed on whatever decides to come in. And because there's a Wormadam, if it came in, I didn't want to have another turn to protect and Toxic Stall me further. And now I put a little bit of a timer on it as well. So now I send in Periwinkle, my liepard, and to do a little bit more trolling, and he sends in Tangela, and I'm just going to go back to my normal, I guess, shenanigans. So I set up a sub, and I can do my swagger trolling. So, again, with the swagger and confusion, but Wormadam doesn't even have that great of an attack in the first place, so it's not going to be taking that much damage, and this is going to take a while, and now I don't have Leech Seed on it, which would be from Green Goblin. So I can go for Foul Play, which is going to help speed up the process, but he lands an Iron Head, and now here's the thing. He's confused, so I can set up another sub, no problem. But he switches to Whiscash, and this is going to lead to our first KO, actually, because we get Swagger on him to increase his attack. The way Periwinkle works is basically to confuse opponents and increase their attack, so they do more damage to themselves, and then use Foul Play, which uses the opponent's attack stat as a base to attack them. So by increasing their own attack, we're increasing their damage to them, which is pretty cool. So we're going to use Foul Play, and he's going to hit himself, and then we're going to use Foul Play and hit himself, and he's going to hit himself again. All the time, we're behind this substitute, recovering HP because of lefties. Or leftovers, for those of you who don't know that. And that works really well for Whiscash. Whiscash is a really unique Pokemon. I should really look into using it more often. But, so there goes our first Pokemon. Now he sends in Murkrow, and now I know it's a a Prankster Murkrow, but we outspeed, so I get the Swagger off before he sets up Substitute. And now we're both behind subs, and I'm not really sure if Swagger works on a substitute. So But I know I'm faster, so I use Encore to keep him using Substitute, and he can't troll me. And now that I have the free turn, I'm going to try and use Swagger to get him confused, because I'm not sure if it'll work on a Substitute. But it turns out that it fails because Substitute blocks the Swagger. You know what, that's okay. So he's going to switch out his Murkrow and bring in Wormadam Trash, which is really annoying, and so I'm going to use Foul Play. Its attack isn't really boosted at all, though, so it doesn't do much at all. Now I want to get Swagger off, and he's just going to Protect Stall me so that he can restore some HP from lefties, but I restore a little bit of HP too, so that works for me. And I'm eventually going to get Swagger off. And as long as he's confused, I can keep making more subs, so that works. And this looks like it's going to be a pretty intense stall war, and this is already a pretty long battle. We're only about halfway through, don't worry. So, now he's confused again, and I'm going to go for Foul Play. Does quite a bit of damage, except his confusion ends, and here's the problem. Now he has Iron Head, and Periwinkle's defenses are bad, and he's not confused, so I can't keep setting up subs until he eventually hits himself, and then do Swagger again. So I have to go for Swagger, which is going to multiply his attack even more, and so in the by chance, he actually doesn't he doesn't hit himself and finally kills off liepard, which turns out to be pretty problematic because he was one of my main stars of this team. So now I send in Chunky because he's a monkey, and Chunky Kong is one of my favorites, and he's bulky and strong. And I send in Primeape, and I have him use Ice Punch because I'm predicting a switch to Sandshrew or Tangela because those are physical walls. And he ends up staying in, and I get the Freeze hacks, which is pretty crazy. But now I'm thinking I can take him out with Thunderbolt from Choice Scarf, Rotom Fan, and I'm really not sure how I'm going to take out this Wormadam because he has so many counters to my close combat from Primeape that are fairly obvious. He's got Tangela, he's got Murkrow, and Sandshrew, so it's really quite simple. Now, I have him on the ropes here, and I wasn't sure if he was going to over-predict or not, but I think he knows I'm Choice now, so I have to use Thunderbolt, and I don't know. I think he was playing it safe too. He didn't want to overpredict. Well, I was just like, you know what? Just go for it, and ends up biting me in the butt. So he switches in Sandshrew, which was a good move, but I thought he was going to overpredict, so I didn't. I stayed in, and now I'm going to go back to Green Goblin, which can wall Sandshrew pretty well. But he makes a good play and predicts that I'm going to switch, so he switches Wormadam Trash back in. Now I'm going to have to switch again, but from there, I was just going to Leech Seed him, but now he switches in his Tangela, which is immune, and now it's Tangela v Tangela, and standard Tangela set has Hidden Power Ice, and I was going to use Hidden Power Ice, but his outsped mine, or it won the speed tie, so he ends up taking out mine, and I think now that his Tangela is Choice Specs, because he's only using that same move over and over, and I was predicting a switch to Sandshrew, so I went for HP Grass, which doesn't do much damage at all. So now I'm going to send in Chunky against this Wormadam, which is just trolling me like crazy. And I really don't know if he's going to switch or not because it makes sense. And he can just keep using Protect to predict because he knows I'm Choice. So he knows that next turn I'm either going to switch or use Close Combat. So he can switch into a Pokemon that resists it. But he probably thought I was going to overpredict. So he stays in and I finally take that thing down. Jeez, that took way too long. So now he sends in Tangela, which is Choice Specs and is going to wreck my Primeape. So I switch into Flora, which is specially defensive and resists it. And now Tangela's at half special attack because of Leaf Storm. So I'm going to take this chance to well, do some damage. And I know Tangela is physically defensive, so I was going to go for Sludge Bomb. In retrospect, I should have used Synthesis to restore some HP because Golduck uses Ice Punch. I'm not used to a physical set of Golduck. I thought Golduck was more specially attacking, but I send out Primeape to use U-Turn to scout. I use AC as Death Fodder to see what moves he was going to use. So he has Zen Headbutt, and I know that my Choice Scarf outspeeds his Golduck now. So that's really useful information. And so now that I have that, I'm going to U-Turn out again, just to be safe, and I thought it might kill the Golduck. And I can send in Whitney, my boss Miltank. It's 2v4. Can we do it? And we're going to set up Stealth Rocks, because he still has quite a few Pokemon, and Murkrow is going to be hurt by those rocks. And it's also going to bait the Rapid Spin, which is a waste of a turn pretty much. So I'm going to be able to keep healing with Milk Drink. He uses Earthquake, but Miltank's a tank, so that's going to work for now. And I thought Body Slam would kill him here, but he ends up just getting off a Toxic, which is really frustrating. The passive damage can be a bit much. So now he's going to send in Tangela, which is physically defensive and knows Sludge Bomb, but my Whitney is actually specially defensive, and I use Heal Bell, so I get rid of that Toxic. And I have Milk Drink, and his Sludge Bomb is doing less than 50%, so I can just outstall him easily here and eventually get off a Body Slam, because I'm restoring 56% HP each turn. So now he sends in Murkrow, and I'm just going to go for Body Slam, because it's Stab, and it has 30% chance of paralysis, which works out really well here, because he has Prankster, and he could troll me really hard. And so he gets the Parahax, luckily, and I'm going to go for Body Slam and finally take out this Murkrow. Now he's onto his Golduck, and he goes for Waterfall, but Whitney just takes it like a champ, and returns with a Body Slam to take out the Golduck. And now it's Tangela's turn, who's Choice Specs, and I'm specially defensive, but he does 75% damage, but now it's halved, so it would only be doing less than 40%. So but I know I outspeed though, and that was the big thing because he's paralyzed. So I go use Milk Drink, but now he gets a crit, and that ends up taking out Whitney, which is pretty bad. But now he's at 1/3 special attack, so Primeape can probably survive, even though it has really bad defenses, and I have Ice Punch, which is going to be super effective. And I just barely survive Leaf Storm, and because he's paralyzed and I'm Choice Scarf, I outspeed, finally get the Ice Punch off, and finish the match. Victory! That was an intense battle. That was really surprising. I'm so glad I made the comeback at the end. Anti-Swag was a lot of fun to battle, and yeah, I'll see you guys in my next battle. But until then, this has been Midnight Zero, and this mission is complete.